I wanted to share a couple of thoughts with you on the Parsha. The Parsha that we're reading is Vayechi this week, and of course it begins with the story of Joseph coming before his father, Yaakov. And Yaakov at this point is old, and he's about to die, and something is happening in his life that I wanted to focus on. So the question I have for you today is, do you ever feel like you have worked really hard and made all the preparations and set everything up just the way it should work out, and you worked really hard for a long time to make it all happen, and then it just does not work out the way you expected it to do? If you're shaking your head, that probably means you're human, okay? Everyone, I think, at some point in their life has done this. We've made preparations, we've worked really hard on something, we make sure everything is set, we saved for the future, we made these plans, we made these arrangements, and then we try to go through with whatever it is that our plan is, and it doesn't work out. And it just all does not go the way you wanted it. So remember back to those moments in your life. And I'm pretty sure what you felt can probably be described as disappointed, right? You felt like, I worked so hard for this. Lord, why is this not working out? I've made all these plans, all of this. I've spent hours upon hours, maybe weeks of preparation, and it just all went down exactly not the way I wanted it to go down. Well, I think in our Parsha, this is how Yaakov is feeling. Jacob is at the end of his life, and he is in Egypt. And he realizes that he doesn't have much left, so this is the story where he blesses his children. It's a beautiful chapter, but I'm not going to go into there. I want to focus on the very beginning of the Parsha, because Jacob is frustrated. He is actually upset. He's not happy because he is in Egypt. He does not want to die in Egypt. That is not how he planned it. Let's put it that way. He has spent his entire life doing something completely opposite. I want you to remember Jacob's life. Remember, he fled Canaan because of a very turbulent situation in his life. I mean, he was potentially going to fight his brother, and one of them is going to kill each other. Okay? There was potentially going to be a death in that family because of what happened. So he ran away. And on his way out of Canaan, he has this amazing experience with God, right? Then he goes and lives with Laban for a while. Long story short, he comes back now, again risking his life. He ran away because his life was at risk. Now he's coming back to face Esau. We read those passages a little while ago. He is risking his life, but he's making it back to Canaan. Why? Because he knows his future is not in Haran. Abraham left, and he said, this is not where we're supposed to be. So he's making it back to Canaan, risking his life, thinking maybe Esau will kill me, maybe he will kill my entire family. So he has this long caravan set up just so to make sure, again, has an amazing experience with God. Remember, just as he's crossing the river, his family is already on the other side, he wrestles with this mysterious Ish that we read about in the Torah. And he wrestles with him all at night, through the night, and he asks him to bless him, and his name is being changed to Israel. So that is an amazing encounter with God. Again, going out of Canaan is an encounter. Coming back is an encounter. And the whole time, his life is in jeopardy. So against all odds, he makes it back to Canaan. And there he is. Everything is going great. He has his sons. He's got his flocks. His family is flourishing. Everything's wonderful. Joseph disappears. That sad moment. But then, a happy moment. Joseph is alive. So he goes to meet him in Egypt, and he's stuck there in Egypt now. And now he's too old. He goes to Egypt when he's over 100 years old. And now he has spent quite a few years in Egypt, and he can't leave because the famine that they were escaping, and this was again a blessing from God, that Joseph was there just at the right time, at the right moment to make it all happen and arrange. You know, we know this was not a coincidence. Yet he knows that God is with him. He knows that God is still guiding him. Not for a moment he's doubting this. Yet he's disappointed because he had plans to die in the land with his ancestors. So he comes to Joseph and he says, swear to me that you're not going to bury me here in Egypt. I want to be with my forefathers because all my life I tried to get back to Canaan. And now I'm here in Egypt. So you can imagine his frustration. He is not happy that right now, at the dawn of his life, where he's just not strong enough to even make the journey probably himself, he's asking Joseph to swear. And Joseph swears. He says, I will do exactly according to your word, just as you request. Now, I was wondering this whole week why this is so important. Why is it so important to him? And as I reflected back on the life of Jacob, it made it clear to me why it's important, because that's where his destiny is. So my question to you today, do you know where you belong and where you're supposed to be? Do you know your place, your spot? He knew his place. He knew his spot, which is why he was so frustrated that he wasn't there. He wanted to be back at home in Canaan. That's where his ancestors were buried, and he knew that was his place. If you're not in a position right now to say, I know exactly where I am, I know who I am, I know where I'm supposed to be, that could be also a very uncomfortable thought. That can be a very unsettling feeling. If you can make it out of that place, if you can figure out where is it you're supposed to be and settle, if you can find that peace, there will be a lot of success for you in your life moving forward, because you will be able to be focused on where you're supposed to be, who you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to be doing. And that is a good place to be. Jacob was not there, and that's why he was frustrated. So everything in the end of his life looked like it wasn't going to work out the way he wanted it. And so my second point that I wanted to share with you is, do not lose faith in God's promises. As you read the words of Jacob, he keeps talking about the promises that God has given him. Something that he's holding on to. He says, when I was leaving Canaan, running away, you told me that you're going to make me a great nation. You told me that you're going to multiply me. You told me that this land is going to belong to my descendants. And he's holding God to that promise. And the same thing, he was about to enter back into the land and greet Esau. Why? Because of that promise. Because he says, that land was promised to me. My descendants are supposed to be possessing this land. And that is what he wanted to see. So he said, do not bury me in Egypt. I want to be there. Because if I am there and my bones are with my ancestors, the likelihood that sometime you will make it back. So do not doubt God. Do not lose sight of his promises. And don't ever sort of say, get discouraged, because maybe you look at your situation right now and you're saying, God has promised me some things and they're not working out. They're not working out the way I thought they should. You know, I hope that you have had moments with God where God has given you some words of affirmation, maybe some promises, maybe some amazing things. I don't know. This is your life. This is your relationship with God. I'm not always privy to these types of information, but maybe you had some encounters with God that were amazing too, when you felt close and you had that sort of type of a relationship where you received some words of affirmation. Hold on to those words. Don't lose sight of them. Don't get discouraged. Just as Jacob was focused on that one singular truth that kept guiding him and orienting his entire life, don't lose sight of that as well. And my third point that I see in this parsha that I think is relevant for every single one of us, that we could see something that is useful for us, is that sometimes in order for things to come true, in order for things to come to fruition, in order for things to work out the way we want them to work out or the way we hope them to work out, we may have to involve other people in it, and we may have to rely upon them. Jacob was too old, he was too weak, and he made Joseph swear that he will fulfill that last wish, and that last wish would be the fulfillment of God's promises to him. So sometimes we're looking at things not working out, but we're not willing to ask someone else for help. We're not willing to get somebody else involved in really God fulfilling promises to us, and then trusting that that will work out exactly the way Hashem has promised. So that's my admonition to you. Have trust, have focus, know who you are, and Hashem will lead you and fulfill the very promises that he's given you today.